Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Woodstock, Georgia, it's time for Cherokee Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Welcome back. My name is Joshua Kornitsky. I am the host of Cherokee Business Radio and a professional EOS implementer. And today in studio, my guest is TJ Blackmon, Vice President of LMI Tech Systems. Good morning, TJ. How are you?
Morning, Josh. Thank you for having me over today.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So I understand from the conversation we were having earlier that you've been with LMI for a little while.
I have. It's a bit of a long story, but I'll shorten it here. I have actually been with and involved with LMI since I was about 19 years old.
And he's almost 22 now. So.
Yeah. Age is getting to me.
There you go. So so how many years has that been, DJ?
This April, it was 25 years because I'll be married 25 years in a month. So I better keep that date right.
Yes, sir. Wonderful. So when you started with LMI, you were functioning in the role of a technician, weren't you?
Yes, I worked for a managed services provider at the time. And this was, late 90s. It was very different than it is today. We were actually on site all the time.
Gotcha.
Because there was no remote access. You drove.
That was remote access was you opened the door.
Yeah, and you got in your car. And we got a call that LMI had a server down. And at that time, LMI had a server.
Okay.
And, things changed. And I was dispatched there and met the principal owners there, got the server back up.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Back in the day when it was hard. Us old guys in the IT, we joke about that. Everybody today has it easy.
There you go. And Hershey bars were a nickel.
Yeah, and I worked for that MSP until about 2006, and then had the opportunity at another MSP to become the network services manager. Did that for about 10 years, and then moved on and to LMI to become the CIO. LMI.
Well, so let's back up for a minute because I guess I should ask you, what's LMI's mission? What do you do?
Again, I'm going to have to give you a short answer to a very long explanation.
That's okay. So let's start simply. How does LMI help businesses? How about that?
Well, first and foremost, LMI Tech Systems, who I work for.
Right.
And LMI Systems are two different companies.
Forgive me. Okay.
But we have one parent company who owns both. LMI Systems is an electrical contractor, been in business since 1962. LMI as a whole has been in business since 1962.
That's pretty long, the technology space.
It's a long time. I haven't been around that long. But LMI just continued to morph over the years and really, to customer needs, take on different types of things from the electrical industry to low voltage to large-scale deployments. That division started in about 2012. Prior to that, LMI had what's called LMI Home Systems, which was high-end luxury homes, audio-visual.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Lighting
like
controls,
home theater lighting.
Home theater, things like that. That business was acquired. And then LMI Tech Systems was really formed around that time where we were doing large-scale deployments for very large enterprise-type companies. Multi-site, multi-location, U.S. and Canada locations.
And I know it may seem obvious to you and I, but just for clarifying for folks that these were technical implementations.
That's correct. That's correct.
So what type of technology were you implementing versus help us still bring us to date of how you're helping now?
So what we were doing then was like I said, very large scale deployments for these larger corporations, multi-sites. Wi-Fi installations, point of sale installations, those type of things. In 2018, we made a decision internally to take what we were doing on the enterprise level and move it back down to the small business space, the SMB. Now, when I say SMB, that's anything from one person to 5,000 people.
So wait, you kind of made your way based on the enterprise class stuff,
right,
and you're able to offer what you're offering now down to the individual level?
That's
true. So let's talk about what is it that you're offering, because right now it's a mystery.
Well, so our big offer is, and really our brand is what we call TaaS Pack. Everybody's going to get When you
Can you spell that?
It's TAASPAK.
Okay.
It's not like the Tasmanian devil. I get that a lot. It stands for Technology as a Service. All right. So, broad term. What does that mean? The best way to explain this is to give you an example.
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
October this year, Microsoft says Windows 10 we're no longer supporting that. Okay?
All right. Yeah, I read that.
If you are a small business owner and you have, let's say, 10 computers that are not compatible with Windows 11, which, by the way, thanks Microsoft, a lot of them aren't.
Okay.
And they can be less than 3 years old and they're not compatible.
So you're looking at a big expense.
You're looking at a very large expense right now, especially with economic factors.
The way things are.
Things are. The average laptop's running about $1,200 right now. That's
wow.
Yeah. We're talking about business class.
That's not state of the art. That's just business class.
That's a very standard basic laptop. Okay. Well, let's do the math on that. You got to replace 10 of them. That's $12,000, right? That's $12,000.
Sure. Well, and that's just to sit them on the desk in a box, right?
Yeah, that's just to get the equipment. Then you're going to pay somebody to come install it, configure your software. Then what do you do with long-term support on that, right? So we create these packages. That's the pack piece,
right?
Where we do it all for you. Not only do we do it all, we're looking at a capital expense versus rather than a capital expense, you're spreading that cost out, right, over a contract term.
So wait a minute, because usually I would, I might work with somebody like you to buy the $12,000 worth of laptops, and then I got to pay you to come in and set each one of them up, and however many hours that is per laptop times whatever your hourly rate is. So by the time we're done, it's probably $25,000, right?
Correct.
So what are you saying that you're offering that's different?
What we're offering is one package that takes that cost and spreads it out over a contract term, right?
So I don't have to write the $12,000 check?
No, you don't have to write the $12,000 check.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, but we have contract terms that go 12, 24, 36. We'll even take it up to 60. Most people, the sweet spot's that 36 months, right?
Sure. Well, because the equipment's going to be old at that point too.
All right. So what else happens during that 36 months? What if you get one of these computers and 6 months in, it dies? Right.
Then I got to pay you to come back out, take a look at it, and get on the phone.
Under our program, you don't do that.
Really?
We replace that equipment.
Okay.
We come out and we reinstall it. By the way, as part of that, you're getting our managed services, right? We're backing that machine up on an image-based backup. We're going to cast that image back to that machine, and it's just like you left it the day before.
So you do this on laptops, on desktops. What else do you handle? Server and infrastructure stuff?
We do. That has become less and less of a thing these days.
Really?
We are now in 2025. We are doing more migrations towards cloud-based services rather than servers, or Microsoft Azure, or Amazon Web Services, rather than physical hardware in these large server rooms like we used to have even 10, 15 years ago. It's more cost effective.
Well, so back up a minute, though. You just said that large server room. So in that server room, you got a UPS, you got switches, you've got routers. How does that get handled?
You don't need it anymore. You just simply do not need it.
Oh, right? Well, I mean, switches you would always need, right?
Switches you've always got to have. Right.
So do they buy their own switches?
We include everything.
Wow.
Down to the cable.
So literally turnkey.
Turnkey.
Wow. Okay.
So we have the capabilities to even handle the electrical, the low voltage, wireless, and those hardware switches like you're talking about.
So it sounds like it's $1 million a month.
It's not $1 million a month.
It sounds like it's an awful lot of services that you're offering, and as you had said, it's sort of that cap expenditure versus operational expenditure. So it's going to help small businesses keep their money in their pockets.
You can budget, right? That's it. You don't have this enormous, oh my goodness, I've got this $12,000 expenditure that I got to spend in 6 months.
Right.
You can now budget that out, and we work with customers all the time. All right, let's help you work this into your budget so that you know every month I've got X amount of dollars rather than this, oh my gosh moment. Right?
Well, so you have the variability of term, like you mentioned earlier, so that you can help mitigate that cost.
Right.
What other services do you provide? Because I know that sitting in an office these days usually still means that you've got to deal with other forms of infrastructure like Wi-Fi and telephones and things like that.
Right. So telephones has been a huge thing for us.
Really?
I have a very funny story about this.
Okay.
My boss walks into my office, it's about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And we have a customer who says, I'm going to give you all of my IT support and infrastructure and all that, but you have to do my phones. All right.
Okay.
Reminder that here that I'm an old school IT guy.
Okay.
What's the one thing old school IT guys hate?
Telephones.
Absolutely hate them. Right. You see, you had those old school phone guys who did the punch block thing.
Sure.
Right? That's not what it is anymore. It is true voice over IP. It's more like a computer. So Scott, my boss, walks in and says, hey, we're doing phones. And I said, no, sir, we are not. And he said, let me know when you're done.
Okay.
So fast forward, the big joke in our office is now TJ's a phone guy because I do love doing them. Ironically, I cannot believe I still say that, but it really has moved it from something that is less analog to it's more like a computer, right? We're cloud hosting these PBXs.
Right.
They're no longer a physical piece of equipment in your office that can go bad. It's all cloud hosted. And voice over IP. And you can do anything. These large phone systems used to cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
Now
Absolutely.
you can get it for a small monthly fee, inclusive of all those fees and taxes. Those still exist and those still are there. But we include all that in our packages.
So realistically, if I'm sitting in and I have a dozen customers that fit into this myself, right? That they're sitting in an office where the machines are all of varying ages. They're running off of an old server that's been there forever, that's running Lord knows what version of what, right? And their phone system is sitting in another corner, and all of it's running in a closet that's older than dirt and full of dust. One phone call, all of that can be in a single bill.
Yeah, and really what we like to do is come into a situation like that and just baseline everything. We really like to do that. We don't have to do that.
Sure.
There's customers who we just do their managed services,
Right.
We just take care of their computers. There's customers who we do everything.
Well, so I want to ask you, what about things like security and antivirus and anti-phishing and all of that stuff? Is that a service that you offer? Or is that part of the package? How does it work?
It is part of the package, and we'll also call this the stuff that keeps you up at night if you're an IT guy.
Sure. Well, I think at this point, it's an everybody guy, right?
It is.
Because everybody has gotten at least one email or letter in the mail that tells them that their data has been compromised.
It's daily. And it's scary. Just saw an article this morning that said all your data is for sale and you wouldn't believe how cheap it is.
That's terrifying.
Right? Especially when it comes to business data.
Sure.
Right? It's one thing for your personal data.
That's the lifeblood.
But it's your business data. All that is included in our package, right? We brought something to the small business that small business normally don't get, and we brought EDR, okay? Endpoint detection and response is the official term.
Tell me what EDR actually is.
So EDR is the only easy way to explain it is it's modern day antivirus. Okay. Back in the day, we had our Nortons and our McAfees and all that.
Sure. Well, you had to run your antivirus. Then on your mail server, you had to have some kind of anti-spam or anti-phishing.
Those days are gone.
Really?
We've moved to this EDR and XDR. XDR is extended data response detection.
Okay.
It's real live monitoring of computers and servers that it's watching more for patterns in data manipulation. And how data is being moved around your computer and your server and your internet connection, and it knows based on the way that data is moving, something's fishy here. Stop it. There's no. Let's quarantine. It has something called quarantine, but it doesn't quarantine it like old school antivirus did.
Right.
It just really stops that process.
And so let's say that it's detected something bad. What is it? Does it notify you? Does it notify me?
It notifies us. We get blinky flashy things happening on our boards and on our computers.
Okay.
We're monitoring, and then we remediate that, right? And that remediation is really what the core of our managed services is, right? We still do your normal. My Outlook won't open. This email's not coming through. My printer won't print. All those things. But really, we've taken that to the next level, bringing that to people who normally that would be just cost prohibitive,
Right.
right? Bringing that to the small business.
So you had mentioned earlier, you said anything from really one person and up. When you talk about the types of businesses that you currently help, I know you had shared with me that you've got some of the larger organizations, and I won't ask you to name names. Just if you give us a sense of scale of what you've got on the high end versus what you've got on the smaller side, so that people understand that this isn't priced to just be for the giant company.
Yeah, I call it uptown to downtown.
Okay.
Right. I come from a very small town, so I appreciate the downtown people, right?
Sure.
The small business owner, the flower shop down the road, the restaurant owner, right? These people typically cannot afford the level of technology that they can and they do need to be successful, right?
Right.
I'll give you some examples of types of business. We've got a few restaurants that we do, mom and pop type style restaurants.
Okay.
We've got print companies. We've got print supplier companies, on up to very large scale, 5,000 user enterprise type things that we co-manage IT. Right?
Oh, with their staff.
Right. They have a staff.
Okay.
We just augment them through various different methods, right? We may supply the EDR software we talked about and monitor that. We may watch their backups, right? For a business like that, backups are critical still to this day. Or we may help them implement projects. We may be, we've got one very large company that we just do project level managed services for, right?
On an as needed.
On an as needed, right?
Okay.
They're continuously growing and acquiring different businesses. We come in and cable their infrastructure, put our switches in, and assist them in the move, right? So it's very different than most MSPs today.
Well, and so we were talking earlier before we went live about the fact that what I always call the $1,000 printer, right? And it sounds like that doesn't happen with you guys. And to clarify, what I mean by that is you call somebody to come help you with a printer that costs you $200, and they spend 7-8 hours on it when it would have been cheaper to throw it away and buy a new printer. But it sounds like because you're providing the service, you're providing the hardware, that bill doesn't come.
That bill doesn't come. And I can't afford $1,000 printer, and they can't either.
Sure.
Right.
No, I understand that. So that makes perfect sense to me that it's a way on the small to medium business, because I don't want to call them mom and pops or however you want to refer to them. The biggest roadblock for them with technology is typically access either to the hardware or to the support. And it sounds like you've kind of created a way to help make that much more approachable.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a local, where we're headquartered, we've got a local brewery.
And where are you headquartered?
Tucker, Georgia.
Okay.
Just right outside the perimeter. We've got a local brewery who needed access control doors, right? They needed to keep people from going into places through health code and stuff like that. Those things are very expensive.
Right.
And it was really just they were lock and key in it. And then if they had to let an employee go or an employee didn't show up for work, those keys are just floating out there. We've modernized that facility with access control doors controlled through Bluetooth on their phones or through a little card, so that if that happens, they can call us directly 24/7 and say, hey, lock this person out, and we lock them out.
So it sounds like you're able to bring people kind of state-of-the-art technology all the way around, but still keep it at a manageable price.
That's correct.
Wow. So as you work and grow with different organizations, what are some of the things that you've learned with regards to how you best deliver your service, I guess is the way that I'd ask that question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And doing this as long as I've done this, I've seen it done wrong, and I've seen it done right, and I've seen it done in between. One of the things that I am continuously trying to get my staff and the people in our organization is the customer is always first. And everybody says that, right?
Sure.
In our world, when I go sit down with somebody who's had a data incident or their managed service provider currently just isn't doing a good job, the thing I always hear, and I can almost tell you every time I go into those meetings, I always hear this. I don't know what I'm paying for. I get I don't know what I'm paying for.
Okay, so they just get the big
Right.
bill.
Or I get they do an okay job, but, and that but
And
can
there's
be,
always that but.
I don't know what I'm paying for. They're not really looking out for us. They're just looking.
So sort of reactive versus proactive.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in Atlanta, especially, within a 3-mile radius of here, you could throw a baseball and hit probably 2 MSPs.
Okay.
Right? We all say the same thing. We do this differently and all this. Thing that I have done with this is we put in something called a CEM. All right. Customer Engagement Manager.
Okay.
That person is our customer advocate. Right?
So wait, you mean they don't have 11 other jobs?
No, they do one thing.
Really?
They are talking to our customers on a really quarterly basis,
Right.
but they're engaged with the customers all the time, right? They don't call them for support. They call them if they don't feel like they're getting the support they need.
So you have a role specifically designated just for the customers to have someone to connect with.
Right.
That's pretty impactful.
And it has fundamentally changed the way we do business from the aspect of the customer always knows they have somebody on their side. And they know that, because a lot of times a customer, if they have a problem, right, if they're not happy with the way a technician did something, they'll hold that back, and that just grows and that festers, and that becomes they do a good job, but.
Gotcha.
Right? I'm preventing that by having that person. And this person is going to call on them. This person is there if they need to add a service, if they're ready to take away a service, if they need to readjust if they had goodness forbid, they have a layoff and they need to scale back.
Or they hire 4 more.
Or they hire 4 more. This person makes sure all that gets handled.
So that only because you had mentioned this to me earlier, right? What does it look like? So let's say I add 4 more people. Based on the scale that you're operating at, is that like a 3-week wait to get the equipment? How long is it?
So current economic issues make things hard to get right now. But for the most part, it's within a week we're turning around.
Well, and you operate, it sounds like, at a scale that you probably have a level of inventory.
We warehouse a lot of the common things. Laptops, desktops. People don't really buy desktops anymore, so we have mostly laptops. We have a couple of desktops. Phones, we keep a vast inventory of those because it's the biggest thing.
Oh, so when you say you do phones, you actually do phones. All the way down to the handset on the desk.
That's it. We take care of everything.
I didn't realize that.
The whole idea of TaaS Pack is one hand to shake, right?
Okay.
One hand to shake. We do it all. We handle the wiring. We handle the electrical if need be. We handle, in the case of a phone, the entire phone system, the installation, the number porting. Number porting is huge when it comes to phones. It's
the biggest nightmare I remember from my distant past.
It has gotten no better. It has gotten no better. And now you have
But
more.
It sounds like you've got people that do nothing but manage that process.
With phones, now you have more people involved that make it, everybody's different as far as number porting goes. It's the number one thing that we deal with. But we handle all that. And that CEM person is guiding our customer through this and saying, here's what's going to happen next.
So no more mushroom theory. Keep them in the dark and shovel stuff on them.
Look, an MSP is constantly battling what I call the 80-20 rule.
Okay.
All right. And if you're listening and you don't know this, we're going to have a talk. 80% of everything that we do as an organization is communication. 80%.
I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
20% of what we do is technical. And you're like, well, that doesn't sound right. Trust me, 80% is communication. As long as you are communicating with somebody and they understand where you're at and what you're doing, the technical part can always be figured out. But if you break that communication, I've seen it.
That's where trust lives, right?
Sometimes you can't build that. You can't fix a communication problem if it's too far down the road.
It's amazing the impact that openness and honesty can have.
For sure.
And it sounds like in the traditional model, it's about, as I would imagine from the managed service provider's perspective, it's about, to some degree, yes, obviously satisfying your customer, but you're always looking to make sure you're preserving your revenue stream. And it sounds to me like you've sort of taken that equation off the table because everything's in. There is no added charge.
No, exactly right. Again, back to the task back. I keep going back to that, but
No,
that's
and,
the core.
and that's everything, right? Because it's a turnkey from the sound of it.
Exactly. Let's go back to our computer scenario, right?
Sure.
We put 10 computers in, you're paying
$12,000 plus.
Right. Then the following morning you open up and your Outlook is not working, right?
Right.
You've been charged for the hardware. You've been charged for the setup. Now you're going to be charged to fix that support.
Right.
We take that off the table, right?
So it's just one bill.
It's one bill, right?
Seems like it's got to be a lot more predictable.
Oh, it is.
So it's not one bill that ebbs and flows. It's just one bill.
It's just one bill.
Okay.
And by the way, here's the other thing. As long as they're under contract with us, the costs never increase.
Really?
As long as you're under contract, right? Full hardware replacement. If we run wire as part of that and the wire's broke, we'll fix that.
It sounds to me like you don't upsell. And I mean that in a complimentary way. It sounds to me like you've got it all wrapped in.
We do. And it's a testament really to what we've done over the years and how we developed the business and grew into that, right?
Well, it sounds like your customers wanted predictability.
Yeah. I mean,
and you found the ultimate mechanism to deliver it.
As part of the owner of this business,
sure,
I want predictability in everything because I want to be able to budget that.
Sure.
Right? That goes for insurance and all those different things. We've really taken technology and made it a predictable thing.
That's a pretty big accomplishment when you think about it, because that's got to be, as I think about the businesses that I work with, that remains one of their largest, most variable expenses, because something bad can come around the corner very quickly, or just an unforeseen failure, right? Whether it's a phone system or server or just two laptops. If they're the wrong laptops to fail and there aren't a backup, that gets expensive in a hurry.
Yeah. I'm taking that risk. I'm taking the risk off of the customer and putting it on me, really. Right.
Okay.
In this case.
So it sounds to me like it's a pretty compelling offer. So one of the things that I want to make sure that we get to is ask how people will get a hold of you. And obviously we'll put everything on our website so that folks can find you. But before we get there, I always like to ask kind of a thinking question a little bit as we get towards the close. And, you've taken us on a journey today, right? From walking in the door as a kid, trying to fix the computers at a place that you're now part owner of, which is pretty cool in and of itself. And I think that says a lot about the culture of your organization, that opportunity exists. What about today? Do those opportunities for your employees still exist, where there's the ability to move up?
It's funny. We just had this conversation last week internally.
Okay. Not with me.
Not with you.
Right.
With my guys. I'm constantly looking for someone to step up to that next level, because as we're growing as a business and I'm bringing in technicians, one of the hardest things we face is getting that mindset right? That customer focused mindset.
Sure.
I deal with tech guys, and tech guys don't like to talk to people.
Some do, some don't.
Right.
But yeah, I broadly follow.
But getting that mindset and getting somebody to step up internally, I never want to go out and hire somebody to take that next step. So internally, as we're hiring people, I'm looking for people who I know can take that next step and lead a small group of tech people down this path, right?
So are you looking for people now?
We're always looking for people.
Wonderful. So, and how would somebody get a hold of you? It's a perfect opportunity.
Oh, that's easy. You can contact me on my email address. That's t.blackmon, BLACKMON. Everybody spells that wrong. MON.
Right.
At LMITSL.com. Our phone number is 678-578-2171.
All right. And we will have all that information on the website as well. But coming back to my closing question, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the things that made an impact on you in your professional life?
It's a great question. And, a lot of people say I have to sit and think about that. I don't.
Okay.
I have been truly blessed to have a core group of about 5 people that have made me who I am today and have not just parents and grandparents,
Sure.
but professionally who took chances for me, right? I was 19 years old when I moved here from a small town in Alabama because somebody said, you have the ground floor of what it takes, right? So they took a risk. And then throughout my career, and now where we're at LMI, you're right. At 19 years old, I walked into that building really not knowing how to get around Atlanta.
Sure.
and now I'm a minority owner in the company.
That's just amazing. So it sounds like there's been a lot of people that have contributed to that.
Yes.
Well, TJ, I can't thank you enough for your time, and I think that we've spelled out what LMI Tech Systems can offer to small businesses. You gave us your phone number, you gave us your email. Again, we'll have all of that on our website. Any closing thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, there's a couple of things,
Please.
if you don't mind.
Not at all. What's next, I guess?
Yeah, so we are excited about a big event. We have recently partnered with the Georgia Dental Association. We're doing their internal IT and have also partnered with them for their upcoming member conference in Amelia Island.
Oh.
That, I believe, is on June the 18th. So obviously it's a private members-only event, but there are I think it's 3,800 dentist offices under that association.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to be there and present to speak to all of the owners of those dental associations. We're excited about that. We're excited about that opportunity. And we're looking to further expand that team that we built with Georgia Dental into the next level there.
That's fantastic.
And I have a super secret announcement that we'll come back in July and talk about. We've been working on something internally for 2 years that we're very excited about, but I can't talk about it right now. So we'll leave that on a cliffhanger.
All right. So we'll definitely have you back on and you'll have to tell us what that is and who and how it helps. Again, TJ Blackmon, Vice President of LMI Tech Systems. Thank you for coming in today. I sure appreciate it. And I think it was a really interesting discussion and gave people a lot to think about because it turns out that there can be one solution to multiple problems.
Yeah, thank you again, Josh. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. So this is Joshua Kornitsky. I'm a professional EOS implementer, and I am your host here on Cherokee Business Radio. And we will see you again real soon.